everybody, and welcome to our Wednesday after school club, Make It. My name is Kim. I am a community learning specialist with Do Space. And today, for this month of April's, our take and makes are kind of themed around macrame. And so we are kind of going a little bit retro. If you are unfamiliar with macrame, it was really popular in the 70s. Basically, it is the art of making kind of like a fabric or a design made out of knots. Making a textile. It's a textile. So forming it using knotting as opposed to like weaving or knitting. And so, to be honest, it's actually a really, really old type of, this is what we're making today. It's a very, very old type of kind of craft or like handcraft. And so macrame has been around for a long time. It is kind of the earliest known recorded styles of knotting. Macrame is like from the Babylonian and Assyrian era, so like hundreds of years ago. And macrame is like actually a French word for knot. And then it's like got really, really popular in the 70s. And now you can make really cool things like a bracelet. So we are making a little bracelet, which I know sounds like, anybody can wear a bracelet, right? And the cool thing, I think, not only are we kind of using our hands, it's good for like hand-eye coordination. We're going to be kind of doing some, it's good for your finger mobility, but also we're kind of giving a little bit of twist is that if you were one of our folks that you picked up one of our kits, then you will have beads in them, and we are going to be making a binary bracelet, we're going to be using the binary code to make basically a letter. So for example, I think if I were to look at this way, this would be a binary code for my first initial, for my first name, for the letter K. And so, so that's what we're going to be kind of doing today. Obviously, you don't have to use your first name of your first initial. You can use really any letter you want. In the kits, I do have just letters, but you could do numbers, things like that. So, this is what we are going to be doing today. So let's unpack our kit and see what's in it, and then we will get started. So hopefully you might have one of our kits. If you don't, this is actually a really great craft because you don't necessarily have to have the material. You do not need to have gotten the materials from us. A lot of the stuff you probably have at home, or you could easily get at any craft shop. It's nothing specialty like our last month with like the sewn circuit components. It's nothing special. It's literally string, beads, and a binary code that you can literally look up online. So let's unpack our kits. So inside our kit, you should have received, obviously, your kind of kit list of things that you need, things that should be in the kit, which include our binary alphabet. So we can see here, so this I include with the kit, but I just really got this offline. And so these are the binary codes for all of our capital letters in the the Arabic, or not Arabic, our phonetic alphabet. So like I said, I did my first initial with my letter K. Basically the binary system, if you aren't familiar with it, basically this numbering system, it's just basically using zeros and ones, is how our computers run, how our smartphones run. This is how this is the language of our computers. So, which I think is kind of cool. So you can, instead of using beads, not just for color, but it can have a meaning behind it too. So you should have received, each of your kits should have a binary alphabet code like this. Oh, it's sticky. You should have received also in your kits 2 different bundles of string. And so for this first couple of weeks, for today and for next week, we are going to be working on this bracelet, and then we're going to be taking a break for the third week of April, and then for the last week of April, we are going to be doing a keychain. So you should have 2 bundles, and I will let you know which one we're going to be needing and using today, because I differentiated how I bundled the string, so it was easy for you. You should have received basically 11 pieces of beads. So let me get all these beads out and kind of explain. Each of the kits were a little bit different in terms of color, but what you should have received, if I can get them all out, this bag is, whew, all my beads are wanting to stick. What you should have received is 8 beads of one color. So we have, I'm going to move this over here. So you should have received 8 beads of one color. So I have 8 green, 8 beads of another color. With it being, I have some like light pink. And then if they don't want to roll away. And then 3 beads of, and these are just going to be used for our keychain. There's nothing really going to be special about our keychain, but I just wanted to add some. So the beads that we're going to be using today are the 2 colors. So, and I put in 8 because our binary code is made up of 8 numbers. So what you are going to need, and you can use the beads that I gave you, or if you have other pony beads or other beads at home that you want to use, you don't like the colors I gave you, that's fine. If you have other beads, totally use those. You don't have to use the beads that we gave you if you had other ones. But you will need to look at basically, for example, if you're using your first initial of your first name, you are going to want to kind of assign a color to a number. So, for example, if in mine, I assigned, oh, I think it actually goes this way. So for mine, for my letter K, I get that into frame. I assigned my 0s as the pink bead and my 1s as the green bead. So you can see how I've matched the pattern of 0s and 1s with the pink and green beads accordingly. So I included 8 of each color is because, you know, I had 4 0s and 4 1s, but you might have 5 0s and 3 1s. You might have 2 1s and 6 0s. So I wanted to make sure you had at least enough beads to make a binary code of your initial if you wanted to. Obviously, if you want to use a number, you might have to look up those codes because it's going to be different. But you just want to make sure that you're assigning that 0s are one color and your 1s are another color. So that's how I'm going to be basing mine today, and I'm going to base it off probably my name again. Just because, or maybe I'll do my last name. I might do my last name with the D. We'll see. But yeah, so that's why you have 8. And so if you don't necessarily need all 16 beads for this, you were just going to, I just want to make sure you had enough so that you could make your letter. So you at least need 8 beads at the very least, and you can keep the rest. And then the additional 3 beads were just kind of ones that they're sparkly and fun, and that's what we're going to be doing the keychain. But again, we'll talk about that next time when we do that. You don't have to use those beads. If you want to use your own beads or other beads that you have around the house or get new beads, you can definitely do that. And then you'll also need a key ring. But again, this is going to be for week 3, so you don't need this today. So what you will need is one of your bundles. So like I said, you should have 2 bundles of string. So one is going to be a little bit longer than the other, and also, so you can kind of see like the general length of this bundle is a little bit shorter than the general length of this one. I also, so each of them have 2 strings of 2 different lengths that are pretty similar, but there's a little bit of difference in them. So this one, you should have one bundle where kind of the top knot should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops, and you're going to have one that has 1, 2, 3. There's 2 strings. There's 2 strings. It's 2 strings with 4. We're going to be folding them in half. So I think I may have misspoken. Each bundle has 2 strings of different lengths, but you can tell the difference because of how I kind of took them into a little knot, and the loops at the top, we are wanting the ones with 3. So with 3 loops, and the ones that we have with 5 loops, we are going to be using for the 3rd week for the keychain. So you don't need this. So I would say put all the things that you don't need for this week back into your little bag, which is what I'm going to do. So I keep everything nice and put together. And so basically all you need for this week are your beads, your 8 beads, depending on the colors that correlate with your binary code of whatever letter you are using. Like I said, I think I might do the letter D because that's what my last name starts with. And so basically if we're looking at that, so maybe we'll do that first. Let's choose. I'm going to have you guys choose what letter you are doing. Again, you don't have to, but if you're doing a letter or if you're doing something other than a letter like a number, you're probably going to need to look those up because I did not add that. But for example, I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, I'm not going to do this because that's not very fun. I'm going to go back to K. I'm going to do K because it's basically 4 and 4 and it kind of mixes up a little bit. So I have in the letter K, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros and 1, 2, 3, 4 ones. So I'm going to pick out, I'm going to assign, for me, for this time, I'm going to assign the light pink as my zeros and the green as my ones. So I obviously I just need 4 of each. So I'm just going to do 4 of each, and then I'm going to move these out of the way. Again, pick out, and then you just have some extra beads if you're using the ones that are in the kit. And so, but if I were using my letter D, I would want to, if I were doing this the same, I would have picked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the pink ones, and then 2 of the green ones. If I was going to let you do the letter D, if you're doing like the letter S, you would need 1, 2, 3, it'd be a 4 and 4 again, basically. If you were doing the letter B, obviously it'd be 2 and 6. So, again, you just want to kind of pick out how many beads you need and how many of each color you need. So hopefully you have done that, using your binary code. And this is nice because you can keep this and do other things with it. So I'm going to put that to the side. So the next thing we are going to need is our string bundles. So like I said, we are looking for the bundle that has the 3 loops at the top. And so you just want to, while I did make them into a knot, I tried to make the knot very loose so you could easily undo them. Now your little bundles should consist of 2 pieces of string. You should have it's going to be hard to kind of show this in, I guess, in my frame, but I have kind of a longer string and a shorter string. So let's move those. So obviously I have this longer string, and then this is going to be my shorter string. And this is what we are going to be needing to make our macrame bracelets. And so the nice thing that, like, once we do kind of get the basic knot, which is called a full square knot, once you kind of get that down, it's pretty repetitive, it's pretty easy. And so we're going to definitely get started today, and then we'll be able to finish up next week. And so I'm hoping we can at least get to the first beads. And then we can finish up for next week. And then the nice thing about it is that if we don't, in the 2 weeks, if we don't finish up, it's really, really easy because it's just the same thing over and over again. But we'll get to there if we have to. So to prepare for us, you are going to want to, we're needing to kind of bring these 2 together. So, but what we want to do is get the 2 strings in half. So I've kind of gathered the ends of my long string and kind of got them together. And what you're needing to do, you definitely want a flat surface for this. I have my table, and you're going to be wanting to working on a table or a flat surface. And somebody the other day told me that when they used to do these, when they were young, they used like a clipboard that had a clip on the end, and that'll make sense because then we're going to need, we're going to be placing the tops of the tape. We're going to be taping them down. So we just need enough space to tape it down. So make sure you're not just doing this like on a pillow. I guess you could do it on a pillow, but you're definitely needing some table space. So because I'm not going to be able to get the whole string in line, just make sure that you're keeping your the ends together, and then kind of, I'm going to bring my finger in between and kind of put my finger through them because I don't want them all really twisty. I want to make sure that my string is nice and straight and not twisted about. And so, get there. And then we're basically wanting to do the same with our short one. And so that one's a little bit easier to kind of get in the whole frame. And what we're wanting to do is I'm actually going to put the shorter string inside my longer string. So it's almost like I'm making a little rainbow with my string. So I have put on the cord or the string that's on the outside is my longer length, and my one that's in the inside, my inside quarter string, is my shorter length. So because we are basically going to be knotting with the two outside, so I'm going to again put my finger I want to kind of put my finger there at the top, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of pinch it at the top. And what we're going to need to do is kind of tie a knot so that these are kind of tied together. So let's do that. So basically what I'm just going to do is I kind of have the top knotted. I'm going to pinch again the very, very top of kind of the fold of my string, and kind of keeping my string as in line or untwisted as possible. I'm going to bring it around my finger, or around a couple fingers. And then, I'll just bring it around my fingers. Basically, I'm just tying this into a knot. And so I'll put the end of my string. Now this could get a little bit tricky. We might need a grown-up help if you are a little bit younger. This is going to take a lot of definitely kind of finger dexterity, mobile skills. So again, kind of bringing our fingers. And so we just want to make sure we're getting the two ends, the tips of our string through that loop we made. And before you tighten it really tight, this is kind of where things can get ever so slightly tricky. It's not too bad. And but this is going to be the end. So let's see. This is going to be basically the end of my we're basically making this loop right up here. This is the beginning of we're going to be starting at the top like this. This is going to be what we're doing right now. We're making this loop, and we need to make it a size that is at least small enough to fit the knot. This is going to be the very, very end, and we're going to tie some knot balls at the very end as well. And this is how we're going to, I would put this on, but I've customized it for a length for smaller wrists as mine, so kiddo size wrists. So we just you need it small enough that big enough that it fits over the loop, but obviously small enough that it stays. So for example, if I can get this in, I may have made mine a little bit too small. And sometimes these macrame bracelets are a two-person job in terms of getting on. Woo, come on. I made this one. I made a lot. I might have to go get a different one. They're just a lot of fun. Well, I got at least the first string on. So obviously we want it, whoops, I may not have been in frame for that. My apologies. So you want your loops big enough that it should fit over this, kind of this little knot ball that's going to keep it looped, but then small enough that it doesn't just slide off really easily. So back to what we are doing. So you are just going to want to, I'm kind of pushing my knot up towards the end, and I'm going to make it almost, basically kind of like at least the size or a little bit bigger than my, if I can fit my bead through here, it's probably big enough. So I'm going to kind of push it up again, and then you can kind of pull on the end and pull on the loop end and the string end just to make that nice and tight. And so then you have made your loops that is going to, where the other end is going to come through so you can wear your bracelet. So first step's done. The next thing we're going to do is we need to put it on our surface. So I'm going to tape it down. I just have some painter's tape. You can use Scotch tape. Again, if you have a clipboard, apparently clipboards are really helpful, but you don't need a lot. You just need to be able to kind of tape down the ends of the end, because we need to keep it in place while we're doing our knots. So when that gets all, you're good to go on that. The next thing we need to do is orient our strings. So once you should realize, and it's going to be hard, and I might bring this up a little bit so you can almost see the ends. You can almost see the ends in frame. Let me bring this up. Yeah, it's fine. So you should notice that you're going to have a really, really long string, two really, really long strings, and two short strings. And that's okay. We want the long strings long, and we want the short strings short for the most part. So how we need to orient these strings is we want to try and get the long strings out on the outside, so you can kind of just like pull them if you need to, kind of just kind of get your outer strings on the outside as much as you can. If you need to kind of pull them out, you can. And then your short strings on the inside. So I have my short strings in between my two longer strings. And this is going to be important because basically as we're making what's called our square knot, we are basically not doing anything with these two middle strings. These are going to keep their length. And these two outer strings are how we're going to be making our knots. So we want to try and keep this all as kind of in line as possible. So how do we make our first square knot? So basically we're going to be doing the same thing on one side and then the other side. So we're going to be kind of going back and forth. So we are going to start on our left side, left hand, left side. Oops. And so what we are going to do is I like to put my right string out perpendicular to my middle string. So these are going horizontal. My right string right now, I'm going to keep, vertical. These are vertical towards you, and this is horizontal. Move that for now as well. So I'm going to keep this string, and we are going to take the left long string, and we're basically going to make a 4, a backwards 4, or an actual 4. Yeah, an actual 4. Kind of looks like a 4, or a backwards P. We'll call it a backwards P. And so we're just going to kind of bring that and loop it over, and I'm going to kind of put my finger and make that horizontal underneath our left one, and it's going to go over, it's going over our middle two strings. And then we're going to take this top left, because this bottom one is part of our left string. So we're going to take our right string and we're going to bring it over the P, our backwards P. We're going to bring it under the middle two, and we're going to bring it up into this space. So basically we're going, let me do that one more time. So it's horizontal, we're going over the string that we just brought over. We're going underneath the two middle strings, and then we're going to bring it up underneath our backwards P part. We're going to bring it up and underneath and pulling it out of that P. And so it's going to look like this. So where we kind of have two backwards P's. And I'll do that one more time for you guys, because I don't want to tighten it up, because then it's a little bit harder. So I'm going to keep this, my right one horizontal. I'm making a backwards P with my left string. I'm taking my right string. It's going over my left string, going under my middle strings, and then I'm bringing it up into the P underneath. So basically we're going underneath this, the loopy part, into this hole, into this loop, and we're pulling it out. Okay, and so then we're going to tighten it up. So the best way I do this is I'm kind of using my thumb, one of my thumbs, to hold down the middle two, and then I'm using my other two fingers to pull tight. And so that is 1/2 of our square knot. And you should see that on the right hand side there's like a little, and it might be hard to see, but I have this little bump. I have a little bump on my right hand side. And so I now know that I have done that. I've basically made 1/2 of that, of a square knot. It's called a half knot. And so we are now going to do the same exact thing, but we're going to be doing it with our right side. So I'm going to keep my this string horizontal, my left side. I'm going to be taking my right string and actually making a P. So we have our P, and I'm going to keep it, kind of make it horizontal again. I'm taking my left string. I'm going to be bringing it over my right string, underneath my two middle strings, bringing it up and under the P and into that P loop. So I'm just going to be calling these the P loops. And then you can pull tight. So let me do that one more time. It's the same exact thing, just on the opposite side. So we are going to be making a P on my right hand side, making a P, taking my left hand string, putting it over my right hand string, bringing my string under my middle two, bringing the string under and into the loop of the P, and then pulling my string out of the P loop, and then I'm going to pull it tight. So again, I'm kind of holding my two middle strings down tight and then pulling outward on my outside strings. So now you should see that you have a bump on your right hand side and a bump, you just made a bump on your left hand side. So when you have one on each side, you know that you've done a full square knot. So you've done your first full square knot. Boom. And so what we are going to do is we are going to actually repeat that 3 more times. We're going to make 4. We're going to be making 4 square knots. So, and I can tell I can do that. I have 4 because, or basically, we're going to be doing that like 8 times on one side. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, maybe I did it on 5 side, but this is the first one. No, it's definitely 4. It's definitely 4. I gave enough length for 4. So we're going to be doing this 3 more times. 3 more times. So we've done 1, and we're going to do it 3 more times. So we're going to go back to our left-hand side. So we're making our P, backwards P. We have our middle 2 strings nice and straight. I have my right-hand string. It's going over my left-hand string, under my middle 2 strings, and up and into my P loop, and then I'm pulling tight, just like that. So, and then I'm going to do the same on my right hand side. Make my P with my string, take my left hand string, bringing it over my right hand string, bringing it underneath my middle two, bringing it up and under into the P loop, pulling that out, and then pulling this tight. So now we know we have done that 2 times. And an easy way, I like to count them. So we're going to be doing this 4 times. So we've made 1, 2. I just count those like little, the little bumps on the ends, because that's kind of going to give you an indicator of how many times you've done this. So we've done it twice. Okay. So again, we're repeating. And the nice thing about this macrame, like it's very, I think, meditative. If you kind of want to just quiet your mind, because you're just doing the same repetitive actions over and over again, and there's something very nice about that. It's kind of the same if you've ever knit or crocheted. It has a very kind of just nice meditative I don't know, aspect to it, because you're just doing the same, you know, it's like if you're doing a task and it's just the same thing over and over and over again. While it can be, you know, to some that might be boring, but I think it's just kind of very, it calms your mind, it makes you focus. This allows you to kind of keep a focus on something. If you are kind of like, oh, this is taking forever and this is boring, I feel like this is kind of like one of those tasks that like you can listen to an audiobook. I really like to listen to podcasts, so I will do this while listening to a podcast, or things like that, or listening to the radio, listening to music. Okay, so I know I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've done 6 because I can tell that by the bumps on the sides. We need to do 1 more full square knot. So 1 more time, making our backwards P with our left, bringing my right string, oopsies, gonna bring that back, make that nice and neat. Bringing my right string down over my left string, underneath my 2 middle strings, up and under into our backwards P loop, pulling that out, and then tightening up. And so we're going to do that 1 more time. And if you get off, another way to tell, like, oh, like maybe you take a break, you've done this, and you had to walk away and come back to it, and you're like, oh wait, did I do it from the right side last time? Did I do it from the left side last time? How do I remember? How do I remember which one I did? You can tell by the last little bump you made. So we just did a left side, or a backwards P, and there's a bump on the right hand side. So you know, I kind of think of it as like I started on the opposite side of the bump, if that makes sense. I started on the opposite side of the bump is on. So for example, we're going to be starting on the right hand side. I'm going to be bringing my right hand string into my P, bringing my left hand string over that right string, underneath the 2 middle strings, and up and into our P loop, bringing that out, and then pulling tight. And we started on our right hand side, but when you tighten up your knot, the bump is on the left hand side. So if you ever walk away and you're like, which side, and you have to come back to it and you're like, which side did I just do? Just think like, oh, okay, well my bump is on the left hand side, so I started on the right hand side. So you basically kind of think of like, well, I have a bump on the left hand side, so now I need to be starting on this left hand side, or my bump's on the right side, so my next one is going to be starting on the right side. So I guess that's how you think. I think of like, I just did it from the opposite side. So it's on the left, and we started it from the right, but you might think your thought process might be, well, the bump's on the left hand side, so I'm going to be doing my next knot from the left-hand side. Okay, so we have done our square knots, and we've done 4. Now, this is where you can kind of customize it. So I'm choosing to do 4 because we're going to bring in our beads at this point. And this is where, like, say we do this all together and you realize this is a little bit too short, or it's a little bit too long, it's too big. If you ever want to do it again, you can change how many square knots you do. So we're going to be doing 4 square knots at the beginning. We're going to be putting in our 8 beads, and then we're going to be doing 4 square knots at the very end. If you realize that if you know, after all of this and you want to try it again because maybe yours is too small, like I know that this is too short for me, but I made this in mind for maybe smaller kiddo wrists. So if I wanted to do this again, I would probably double the amount of square knots I had on each side. So I would probably do, instead of 4 and 4, I would do 8 and 8. And so maybe if you're thinking like, oh, this needs to be a little bit longer, you might add 2 square knots at the beginning and at the end. Or if you're thinking it's too small, you could take out, you could do 3 and 3 or 2 and 2. It's totally up to you. That's the nice thing about this activity, is it's pretty customizable. So, but for now, I'm going to have us do 4 at the beginning and we'll do 4 at the end. So now it is time to add our beads. And so again, I have my binary code. I know, I'm just going to fold this up like this. I know that I am going to be doing, put my beads up there for now. Get them a little bit in frame. Okay, so I know that I assigned the zeros as pink and my greens as 1. Zeros for pink, 1s for green. So I am going to now take my first pink and we are going to put it in this middle, on these middle 2 strings. So I found that the easiest way to do that is to kind of pull those 2 middle strings tight and to pin, like I kind of have it wrapped over my index finger and I'm going to pinch. I'm just going to pinch the string at my index finger. And so I have this little pinch, and then I'm going to pinch at where my fingers meet. I'm going to pinch again, and I'm going to have this tiniest little loop, this tiny little guy, and I am going to kind of stick and kind of wedge my beads onto that little bend. So you can kind of see, you might have to like really push it in there and then pull it out. If you have fingernails, that's always good. If you need like tweezers, that you can do that as well. So let me show that to you again one more time. So I'm going to kind of bring my middle 2 strings over my index finger. I'm going to pinch with my other thumb and index finger, and then where like as kind of a fold, I'm going to pinch where my fingers meet, because you don't want a lot. You don't want it loosey-goosey. You actually want it really, you kind of want everything to be, you know, as like firm as possible. So there's not a lot of movement at this very tip. So I want to pinch it pretty good. And so because if it's loosey-goosey like this, it's going to be really hard to get both of those loops into your pony bead. But if it is a little bit, you just have to make sure that they both can kind of get in. And if you kind of just push them in through that hole and then use tweezers or your fingernails to kind of, if you can pull one out, the friction will pull it both through, and then you just pull your ends. And so it should be able to, and then you're going to get your pony bead on. And I'm realizing this white bead on this white background is not the easiest to see, so I apologize for that. It's very light pink. So those are my middle 2 strings. And so basically this is the biggest action that your middle 2 strings are going to be getting. And so then we are going to be doing the exact same thing that we just did. We're going to be just making a square knot over our first bead. So again, going to be starting, and I know that I ended on the I know I need to start on the left-hand side because my little bump is on the left-hand side, so I know I need to start on the left-hand side. We just talked about that. So I'm going to be putting my right string horizontal, turning my left string into a P loop, bringing my right string over our left string, under our middle, to up and into our backwards P loop, and then pulling this tight. And so you want to just kind of try and make sure that your two middles, as you're kind of pulling this tight with the bead on it, try and keep them as aligned as possible. You don't want them getting twisty, turny too much. So, and then pull that nice and tight. And so we've done half. So I'm going to bring this over again. So we're going to be finishing off our square knot by making a P loop on the right-hand side, bringing my left-hand string over my right-hand string, under the middle two, up and into, bringing my string through, and then tightening up. So when we have a full square knot is when we have done one from the left and from the right. If we were just doing one, it would be called a half square knot. So you want to do a full square knot in between each bead. So we've just done a square knot and in between. So the next bead that we put on, we'll put it on in between. So after you've done a square knot from basically a full square knot, or made a loop, made a knot from each side. So we've been going for about 40 minutes now, so I'm going to stop us here because I think even though it doesn't seem like we've gotten very far, because we've got the basics down, when we start up next week, we should. Let's do one more. Let's just do one more for good measure. So because my K, the next letter in my binary code is 1, I'm going to put a green on. So we'll do one more just so I can show you how to put the bead on again. So again, we're kind of putting the two middle strings over my index finger. I'm going to pinch. I'm going to bring my fingers together and pinch so I have where it's nice and tight and not loosey-goosey. And then I'm going to kind of squish the end, my strings into the hole of my pony bead. And then bring that out. And so now we have a nice spacer in between. And then we're going to do a full square knot. So again, doing it from the right, or from the left, doing my backwards P, bringing that over right string, over my left string, under my middle two, and up and into my backwards P, bringing my string out, and then pulling tight. And then doing the same and finishing off my square knot from the right. Boop, boop. So we're close. We're like a third of the way done. So I think next week we should be able to finish this. So we have now put on 2 of our beads and started the beginning of our binary code for a letter. Hopefully that is working out for you. And yeah, so we will finish this up next week. So you guys, thank you for joining me today. Make sure that you are going to our Beanstack website. Beanstack is kind of where we are able to kind of track, if you are able to track what, oh, that didn't, there it goes. You're able to track what programs you came and watched, whether you're a kid or adult. If you've joined webinars for as an adult or any of our after school club on Twitch as a kid, you can go make an account on Beanstack, and then when you have attended our programs online, you can mark those as attended, and then when you you kind of gather tickets, and you can put those tickets in to be drawn for prizes. So make sure you're going to Beanstack and doing that. It's really, really great. And if you also would like to give us any feedback on our programs, we always love to get feedback on our programs. So if you have a few minutes, you can click the link that gives us to a survey, and if you fill out the survey, then you are eligible to win a $20 gift card. So we always love to get feedback for that. So yeah, so friends, join us next week where we will finish up our macrame, our fun macrame binary code bracelet. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and we will see you next week. Have a good rest of your day. Bye bye.